See, Maura herself, the main character, you never showed her full face. Why?
Again, because we did not want to speculate on anything, we decided to create this sort of approximation of Maura based on existing newspaper accounts of her. So the most prominent descriptions that we had were, first of all, her long hair. She was a girl of 18, and she had tattoos on her arms and hands. And the way that we decided on Maura's appearance was we had photos of two suyok irot women. So we had Tugmina, who was the same age, and she also had long hair. So the build was mostly based off of this image of Tugmina, while the tattoos were based off of a woman named Demenya. And we assumed that her tattoos are very similar to what Maura would have had, like a full sleeve.
And to clarify lang, no, there's no existing photo of Maura.
Yes.
The reporters were not able to track any down.
Yes.
Oh, despite the fact that there was really heavy newspaper coverage of this event and many pictures of the Filipinos. And it's interesting that yung main character ng storyang to, there was not a single photo that you could base her face or her illustration on, and yet there were photos of many others and many other Filipinos at the same fair.
Yes, I believe this is because Maura died before the fair. So the heavy documentation was shortly after, during the fair itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and okay, and just again to fill in the story, Maura came down with pneumonia. She died of pneumonia, yes. Spent several days in a local hospital there in St. Louis. And as you mentioned, she died before the fair opened. Kaya there's no photography because most of the photography was taken by people visiting or reporters, photographers visiting the fair, right? And after she died, there was an autopsy done on her. None of this, I guess, was reported in the newspapers, pero nalaman na lang ng investigative reporters later on that a famous anthropologist or a leading anthropologist from the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., which is a research and museum, a government institution in Washington, no, came to St. Louis, did the autopsy, and supposedly took part of her brain, yung cerebellum, back to the Smithsonian to be part of this experiment, no? So he collected brains from very many different ethnic groups, no? Mostly daw Native Americans, African Americans, and also now and then Filipinos, parang people of color. Again, it's part of this, part of this set of beliefs back then. It's theories that the brains of people of color were different from the brains of white people, di ba? Parang ganon.
Yes, the researcher or the anthropologist Hrdlicka was responsible for acquiring different, as he mentioned, specimens for the Smithsonian at the time. And from my understanding, while I can't speak on the method of reporting that they have done prior to what I have added to the report. It is my understanding that he has, again, collected several specimens from the World's Fair, and there were anticipated deaths that he knew about, and that's where some of the specimens came from. And this collection just grew and grew over the years, and he performed comparative studies. Again, from what I know, he performed the comparative studies against the brains of white people. And it was all in an attempt to establish some kind of supremacy.